Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max, welcome back to my YouTube channel and yet another Nottingham Forest match preview. Yes, we are back, ready for another match preview. Today talking about our upcoming home fixture on Saturday, take it on Reading in the Championship, a team who are in pretty poor fortunes at the moment in a stinking run of form in the league, outlook up in the third round to a non-league team, and in general, things aren't going too well for the Royals at the moment. Before we do that though, we are going to be chatting ever so briefly on our FA Cup match against Huddersfield Town in the 5th round on Monday night. Just talking about the ups and downs in the game and how it went over the balance of the 90 minutes. So before we do that, don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel whilst you're down there. Be greatly appreciated. We are very close to 350 subs. Hopefully we can hit 400 in the next month or so and push on towards our next milestone of 500 subscribers. And with that being said, let's get into the content for today. Let's get into our match preview and hopefully a game that we can win against Reading. Okay, as always, I will leave the timestamp on screen so you can skip forward into the Reading game if you just wanted to see me talk about that. But for now, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Huddersfield match and our 2-1 win in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Yes, on the day, goals from Sam Surridge and Ryan Yates managed to cancel out an early Huddersfield goal and a disallowed goal, which for some reason, I don't even know how that was offside. That was definitely not offside. Early goal for Nottingham Forest to come away with a 2-1 win at home at the City Ground, in which we were pretty good. We were a pretty good team on the day. I just want to touch on Huddersfield's opening goal a little bit first. I mentioned in the preview they are one of the best teams from set pieces in the Championship this season. We definitely saw that. Carlos Cabral's team just completely nailed their set piece. It was really good work. They decided to play a bit deeper, play wide from their goal and make the in-running sort of run towards the goalkeeper. It's very hard to explain. If you saw the game, you know what I mean. It was a really good set piece, something I've not really seen too often, particularly at Championship level. And I think what they're doing there is quite interesting with their set pieces, interesting set piece routines. But overall, it didn't really ever feel like it was going to be Huddersfield's day. On the day, we just seemed probably a little bit more in control of the fixture and probably the better team on the balance of play. Forest saw about 55% possession of the ball, and although we were outshot 7-11 on the day by Huddersfield, their shots were not the highest quality. About half of them came from outside the box, so they weren't able to really work into the more dangerous areas of the pitch, which we were able to do on multiple occasions. For me, on the day, the man of the match was probably Ryan Yates, having scored and set up our opening goal for Sam Surridge, and overall had probably one of his best games in a Forest shirt. And that's really saying something. He's been one of our best players this season. He only took one shot, but he obviously converted it for his goal. He took 2 dribbles, which he completed, and he also made 7 tackles on the day, which was absolutely monstrous. Like, the guy is an absolute machine in the midfield, and he really complements James Garner in that sort of double pivot in there we've got at the moment. And of course, that winner set up a really tasty 6th round quarter-final fixture at home against Liverpool. First time the two teams have played since 1999. I was but a toddler, not even like a toddler, like 1 year old last time we were in the Premier League facing Liverpool. So for me, it's going to be a great occasion, a great fixture. I really hope I can get tickets for the match, but I'm not getting my hopes up because in the recent few months, the games we've had, our tickets have just been selling like hotcakes. Like, there were only a few left for the Huddersfield game. Obviously, unfortunately, I couldn't go, but like, it was mental how quickly these tickets are selling out. So hopefully I can get them, but I'm not getting my hopes up. With that a couple weeks away for us, we do need to turn our attentions back to the Championship and hopefully securing a Championship playoff spot come the end of the season. And we can make a great leap into doing that by beating Saturday's opposition in Reading. And that really nicely transitions into it. So let's talk a little bit about Reading this season, how it's going for them, and it's not really going very well for them if we're being honest. They started the season off with experienced head coach Veljko Paunovic, who finished pretty strongly in his debut campaign with Reading, but they then sacked him after 33 games this season, where he'd only picked up 9 wins, and they were sitting pretty close to the relegation zone, and that period also included 7 losses on the bounce around the turn of the year. To compound this, they also were knocked out of the FA Cup 3rd round by non-league Kidderminster Harriers. Of course, the team, I think, went on to lose to West Ham in the next round, and they've had a 6-point deduction during the season due to breaches of sustainability and profitability margins in the Championship. Paunovic was replaced by Paul Ince and Michael Gykes, on an interim basis for the last few games, but haven't really seen that bounce that you get from new managers, having picked up just 1 win in their 3 league games, the other 2 that they've lost. And in general, it's just not been a very good season for Reading, especially considering the last couple of seasons that they had, the developing of talent they've managed to do. It just seems to have gone off the ball, and as not someone who is not a Reading fan and doesn't really know much about the club, I don't really know why. So if you do know a little bit about why, I'd love to know in the comments section below. But that transitions nicely into what makes Reading so good, or probably more fittingly, so bad this season in the Championship. Arguably, they are the worst defensive team in the Championship this season, having conceded the 2nd most goals in the league with 68, with only Peterborough having conceded more, and they also concede the most shots per match at 15.5, which is horrendous. And they also possess one of the worst shot differentials in the league as well, with -5. They are heavily reliant on their goal scoring this season, having scored 42 goals in 35 games, for which I believe John Swift, who's probably their best player, has contributed around 60% of those in goals and in assists. And they definitely are relying on some very lucky finishing in the league this season, with a conversion rate of around 11%, which ranks them pretty highly in the Championship, despite the fact they only take around 10.5 shots per 90, which ranks them firmly towards the bottom. I believe 7th from bottom in the league. As I mentioned, John Swift is probably their best player at the moment. Despite having a few talented players in that squad, he is definitely the one carrying them towards potential safety in the Championship. According to Who Scored, he is currently their highest rated player over the course of the season, and the only one to have a rating higher than 7 at 7.16. And he has contributed 11 goals and 13 assists in the Championship this season, for which he's actually top assister in the Championship this season, which, to be fair, hats off mate, that is impressive. You're in a relegation threatened team and you've created the most goals in the entire league, more than anyone else, and that is very, very impressive. And the lad is playing absolutely out his skin at the moment, taking about 2 shots per match, although around 75% of these are coming from outside the box, creating 2.7 chances per match and taking 1.6 dribbles per match. The final 2 metrics, he actually ranks top in the Reading team, and he is 2nd in the squad for shots overall. Forest will definitely need to keep an eye on him. I would suggest just parking Ryan Yates on him for the entire match and just man-marking him out of the entire game, because bar John Swift, they don't have a huge amount of creativity in that squad at the moment, other than maybe Tom Ince and maybe Lucas Zhao, who I don't even think's fit for the game. So there's not a huge amount of goals in that team outside of John Swift. So if we can keep him quiet, it should be a pretty routine fixture for us. So we talked about what makes Reading so good this season. We've talked about what's made them pretty bad this season. The next course of action is to talk about how Reading are actually playing this season as a team on the field. And it's quite hard to do this. There isn't really a discernible style of play that you can attribute to the club. Under their new interim managers, Reading have pretty much stuck to a rigid 4-2-3-1 formation, with John Swift sitting in that number 10 position, containing a very experienced spine to this team, such as John Swift, Danny Drinkwater and Junior Hoylett. Like I said in that little intro, it's very hard to determine how they actually play. Looking at the highlights, looking at the stats, there isn't really a standout thing in their team. They build with a moderate amount of width from what I can see, and this is predominantly down the left-hand side, which is a slight bias for them at around 39% of their touches, and I think it was around 17% of their shots. But they rank very lowly in terms of possession and passes and all these sorts of things in the league, around 48% possession per match on average, which ranks them firmly in the bottom third of teams in the Championship this season. But they don't really do too much when they do have the ball. They're not a long ball team. They don't try and play the ball quickly through the lines. They don't really have a distinct way in which they approach their matches, which could, considering, and they see very little of the ball actually in the final third this season. They rank 3rd lowest in the Championship for possession in the final third during their attacks, and actually rank 2nd in the league for possession in their defensive third, suggesting that they spend large amounts of their games under the cosh and under huge amounts of pressure, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same against Forest on the day. They also aren't very good at getting the ball into the box to create those high quality chances that you would expect a good team to create. They rank 4th in the league for the percentage of their shots coming from outside the box, and a big part of this can be attributed to their players. John Swift, for example, is a player who takes around 75% of his shots from outside the box despite being so prolific this season. So there's definitely a threat from distance, but they're not very good at getting these high quality opportunities that the best teams in the league can get. I'm trying to find some form of positive in there, and there really isn't very much for Reading, but I did manage to find a little nugget of information that they're actually one of the, I don't want to say best because best is very strong, one of the decent teams in the league this season from set pieces, ranking joint 5th alongside Forest for set piece goals at 10. So this could be an area that they try to exploit, but as we've mentioned in recent weeks, Forest are one of the best teams in the league this season defending set pieces, so I find it highly unlikely that they're going to find much of an avenue in attacking this sort of style. To summarise, Reading are a very hard team to figure out. They've got some decent results this season, but by and large, they're not doing very well and are rightly down only a few points above Derby in the relegation zone. And it's really hard to find a discernible style of play that they approach their matches in, which suggests that they're pretty unpredictable, which could be bad for us, probably not, and that they're very reliant on individual magic in their players, which is a definite that we've seen over the course of this season with players like Lucas Yao and John Swift. We'll definitely need to be patient in build-up play. They definitely look like a team that will defend pretty deep and do some pretty last-ditch defending, but I think with the lack of threat that they probably have on the counter-attack, we can probably afford to commit our wing-backs a little bit further up the pitch, get some 2v1s in the wide areas, particularly with Johnson and Spence down the right-hand side, and we could potentially see some real interesting action in those areas. The wide triangles are also going to be very effective and probably important in the way in which we build our attacks. It's the way in which we sort of build in the wide areas, seeing the central midfielder, the wing back and the winger of that side sort of interchange with each other, creating these triangles with each other where they can then create overloads, they can sort of make these dummying runs and lose their markers, and it's really how Forest have done some of their best attacking over the course of the season, particularly in possession. Reading are also out without some of their more key players. They've had some real significant injuries over the course of this season to players who've played significant amounts of minutes in their squad, including Tom Lauren and Baba Rahman at left back. With Lucas Yao also potentially a doubt for the match, they could be sort of stringing together a first 11 of very inexperienced players, or players at least not fit for championship level. They've also lost one of their goalkeepers in Carl Hine, who's returned from his loan going back to Arsenal due to a season-ending injury, having only played about 450 minutes since joining the club, and this has forced him to go into the free agents market and pick up former Bournemouth and Villa shot-stopper Ørjan Nyland. The Norwegian international, however, has only played one league match in the last 2 years, so he's definitely going to have some rust on him, and he's probably going to be starting for them, so there could be a good opportunity to maybe test him and hopefully get a couple of goals for Forest. Overall, from what I presented there, I think this is probably going to be a pretty cut and dry affair. I do like to sort of have a little bit of caution in these sorts of matches because you never know what these teams can sort of pull out of the hat. But I definitely feel like Reading are a team who are running out of tricks and very quickly sliding into a relegation battle. And potentially with how Derby have been playing over the last few weeks under Wayne Rooney, could get sucked into it towards the last few games of this season. I'm going to suggest a 3-0 win at home for Forest. But of course, anything can happen in the wonderful world of Nottingham Forest Football Club. Obviously, as always, let me know what you think of not just this video, but this match in the comments down below. And let me know what you think your scoreline is going to be on the day. Like I said, I think it's going to be a cut and dry 3-0 win. It'll be great to keep a clean sheet. Hopefully, Ethan Hovarth will continue some great form in goal and really give Bryce Sam some competition down towards the end of the season. But that does conclude this Nottingham Forest match preview. And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this, don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel whilst you're down there. It will be heavily appreciated as we push towards our next milestone of 500 subscribers. And with that being said, enjoy your weekend and enjoy the game, Reds. I will catch you later.